Hello, folks, and welcome to the State of Survival. Today, we're going to be talking about DayZ 1.23 that dropped on November 7th, 2023. Today, we have quite amazing thing. It looks like DayZ 1.23 is here with a shiny new Northwest Airfield, or as they call it, Vybor Airfield Base. New push action and custom animations, new sounds for crafting, and even improvements to the launcher with a host of new fixes and updates. But wait, there's also a new Skybox and Clouds overhaul? Let's go ahead and jump into this overall update, Jarl. The new airfield. Let's just get right into the meats and bones of this update. Vybor Air Base, or Northwest Airfield, as I like to call it. Looking at you, BI. What do you think? Do you think it was an improvement? Do you like the changes?
Well, first off, it will never be known as Vybor Air Force Base. It will always be known as Northwest Airfield. But I noticed when I saw the design, and I've seen a lot of flyovers because God knows every time I try to run up there and experimental, it didn't end well. I became reacquainted with a bullet several times. I will say that I noticed older design structures from back before point 0.6, back in the Arma mod days. I noticed a familiar layout. And part of me was kind of bummed because I thought when we were getting a new one, we were getting a whole new airfield. So I just feel like they're kind of taking the best of both versions of the airfield and kind of making a hybrid copy. Um, but I don't know because I'm still not entirely sure I'll spend a whole lot of time there.
Yeah, and I kind of feel a little bit mixed about it. I didn't necessarily mind the new or the old airfield now, as people will be calling it, the one, oh 03 to 122 airfield. But 0.62 did hold a lot of memories, most of them being I got sniped. And it
Right?
was definitely a PvP fest. But most of the times it was just me being sniped. So this new layout kinda, I think you kinda are right. It plays to both kind of fields of the thing. The airfield definitely is a lot more exposed now, it feels like. There are less buildings on the south compound, and they did remove the construction and put in some other kind of various things. So it's going to be interesting to see whether or not these changes are going to be accepted as a better airfield overall, or if they're going to be seen as maybe a step backward or maybe a step in the wrong direction. Maybe they sidestepped too much, trying to appease both parties without truly giving back what people truly wanted from 0.62. Um, what other things did you notice about the airfield that you actually did enjoy seeing?
Well, one thing that I've really enjoyed, and this is going to sound so small, is they've retextured and recolored some of the buildings so that it looked more military. Because I think for me, nothing was more of a distraction of my immersion of being in this military airfield than seeing civilian grade buildings just haphazardly drop there. Like, what fire department works in the middle of an airstrip that isn't part of the military? And I really like that they kind of paid attention to that. Um, I think the biggest thing is, like you said, have clearing up the South is huge because that's where a lot of the fresher people are going to be coming from. I feel like maybe slinking into the airbase to grab a few supplies and bolt out, like I used to do with the Arma mod, is a lot more doable, which makes towns like Zelegonorsk more viable, like it used to be. Because you can hit up these points instead of just going Novi Starry and heading west from there. It gives you a reason to slink past Kamyshovo and up near Zelegonorsk and hit that southern side. Um, it is more open, but I think that's more of a detriment to people arriving at the airfield than it is the snipers who are laying in wait. So I don't know. I don't know. I think I'll run up there and maybe grab a plate carrier and then bugger off. But I don't think even though there's a supply cache up there now, I don't think I'm going to be spending a lot of time up there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they did replace they removed the big, large cargo plane at the end of the airfield, and they put in a smaller one with a cache that can spawn some nice things in there, food wise, and a couple of other things wise. It's kind of a nice little event area. Is a event. I think what I actually kind of want to more or less address is the North Compound. So in that prison in the Northwest Compound is the stairwell that now leads down to the basement, just underneath the stairwell that would usually lead up to the barrack quarters or whatever.
Mhm.
And down there is kind of a little like I would say almost replica of what the Tizzy bunker basement looks like. But instead of there being no door in the what looks like office, there is a metal door and there is no window on it and it looks like a prison door. So people are speculating that maybe DayZ will give us a underground area. However, I don't think that's going to be the case. Do you think people are right?
I don't think so. I mean, Northwest Airfield has been a long contention with the player base anyway, in its need for redesign and its need for something to spice up the gameplay up there. I think verticality is the answer, but I don't think building a subterranean area is the answer. I think having more options to dip into more basements or go up more throughout several of the buildings might not be the worst idea, because you would imagine a Russian airfield like that would have a tremendous number of bomb shelters in the buildings. So I'd like to see more of that. I'd even like to see the fire station get one of those. Because if the airfield's being bombed, even the fire staff has to go somewhere to take cover. But I'd like to see more of those basements, because I think the point of the basement is that if you have small arms and you were able to get there, that sniper has to come and get you. So more small arms gameplay would be really good in the airport. But how you could obtain that without ruining the atmosphere of an empty airfield, you got me.
Yeah, definitely. You know what I would like to see on the airfield talking about possible like underground stuff is I would like to see service tunnels or service gates or whatever where there's just like a bunch of pipes going down there and like it's like a one man walkway next to the pipes. Like it's meant for people to like transport fluids and all that kind of stuff over long vast distances without exposing your infrastructure above ground. I think that kind of stuff would be really cool on the Northwest Airfield, and I think it might fit the airport quite well. My grandfather owned a small airport, and he even had small maintenance tunnels like that between his hangars and where they refueled the planes and stuff like that. So it's not unrealistic for it to be there, although I'm not sure how 100% realistic would be in certain areas. But all this aside, they also gave us a new skybox to go with this new beautiful Northwest Airfield. And have you actually had a chance to look at some of the amazing changes they did to the new skybox?
When I joined, it was night, and it was a clear night, and it was terrifying. The nights feel darker. And I'm normally playing on modded servers that already have darker nights, stuff like that. But what really caught me off guard was when I made it over to Baron Zeno and it started to become dawn. I actually caught myself sitting on the hill and watching the sunrise, because it's not just, oh, it's night, it's kind of gray, oh, it's day, oh, it's kind of gray, oh, it's night again. It feels like there's more of a transition. There's more color in the sky. There's more animation to watch. But the one thing I noticed is I had a hell of a time getting to Baronzino, and I had to look up the reason why. The clouds don't just travel east to west anymore. They oscillate around differently, and I did not have a compass. I was totally thrown off by the beauty of the clouds. That's the other thing. The clouds, oh, it makes it feel like a whole new game.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. I watched Wobo's video about the new skybox, as well as I know that lad, which is a very big lighting person inside of DayZ and the skyboxes. And yeah, the overall changes to the skybox are miles better than what we had before. It's almost like they decided to stop giving people what they wanted, which is volumetric clouds, and they're like, you know what? We're going to give you something better. We're going to give you an entirely new system that is layers on layers of situations that fit the DayZ world far better than volumetric clouds ever could give you as players. And it's not just the Skybox, the lighting has been overhauled a little bit. There are some new things that have given to modders to see, and overall, it's a very welcome and beautiful change for the game overall, which I'm very very happy about. But they've also given us so much more things, and I just love how there are little details that they can add to the game, such as crafting sounds. I never realized that I missed crafting sounds. Did you
Right?
Yarl?
No, and it was weird because there was a stint where you and I were playing DayZ a ton, and then I went to Medieval Dynasty and I was making a hatchet, and it just kind of caught me off guard. I missed that. I wanted to say textile feedback, but I guess that's more just the audible feedback. I missed the different various crafting noises. And I'm also sick and tired of people putting bear traps outside of the buildings when I'm trying to role play with them and I don't freaking hear it. Well, now I'm going to hear you jerks. Sorry.
No, I absolutely love it. The tearing of the cloth, the snapping of the sticks, all that kind of stuff is nice because it's not necessarily, oh my god, this is game changing, but it's a nice level of detail that just makes you feel more immersed in the game. And if DayZ is anything, it's most times about the immersion of feeling lost, alone, and trying to survive is one of the key elements that makes DayZ DayZ. So adding these kind of situations, I'm loving it. It's nice to see, and it also hopefully encourages other modders out there to follow suit because I would love to see more sounds for modding stuff. I'm looking at myself in the mirror right now too.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd like to
but
hear sounds wringing out clothing, little things like that, because you mentioned tearing up the rags. That's huge when you're in a gunfight. If you hear the guy you're fighting who's boarded up in a room tearing up rags, go, go, go. Like that audio is so important.
yeah, definitely, definitely. Now they also added in the push car animation and actions. Now this is something that we've seen in mods for a while now. We've seen War Dogs flip transportation. We've seen a couple of other variations of this. And let's be honest, folks. While they tried their best, it was always kind of janky. There was situations where it worked okay, but sometimes it didn't work very well. Like, for example, I was on Halkiana's server the other day, and someone said, "Just push your car," and somebody goes, "It just clipped into the map and blew up," and it took me with it. Like it was like, oh gosh. So I've always been a very big pusher for some of these really nice mods that actually are more quality of life mods becoming vanilla features because vanilla,
Right.
and I hate to say this, does do things right in a more core mechanic wise way than what some modders can do, even if they do it their best.
I agree. And I've joined a lot of servers where they had those mods where you can move vehicles, push vehicles, and stuff like that. But come on, you and I have played in a lot of servers. The best method of getting your vehicle unstuck was still a campfire. That was still method number one you had to go through. And now I feel like it's not. Now I feel like they're giving you, if you get your car stuck on a takeout box, now you can push it past the takeout box without having to do something silly, which I really appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing, and I'm not sure about this, folks. You can answer me down in the comments below. Correct us if we are wrong. But in experimental, they were playing with the idea of character spawn groups. Now, to give people a quick rundown, what this meant is a character spawn group meant that for a certain amount of time, group selection of spawns were active, and then you can only spawn there. So, for example, around Cherno, if the spawns around Cherno were selected, for the next 30 minutes, everyone spawned around Cherno. This was in an experimental testing phase in the experimental 1.23 push. However, I am not 100% certain if it made it to stable, as I did not see in the patch notes fully, although I did quickly glance at it.
The
But
beauty
Jarl,
is
just on the premise alone,
it did. You can actually go to BI's website under DayZ.com, and in the article they released at 5:55 Eastern today, November 7th, they did announce that the group spawns are still a thing. So
okay,
now,
I do see
now
that.
if you and your whole team got wiped, now you'll at least all spawn, let's say near Baronzino.
Now, the question here is, do you think they took the feedback that they were given by people like myself and a couple of others overall? The feedback that we have given Which actually, you know what? Before I talk about my feedback, Yarl, tell me what do you think about the system overall?
I This is something I've been wanting for a while. I always said that new players would be more enticed to join DayZ. I mean, like, let's take Dimension 119. He knew nothing about the game. It's not hard to take somebody new to the game, roll with them for a couple hours, and teach them survival ropes so that they could be self-sufficient. I think by our third session, Dimension 119 was able to do things on his own without needing us to go hunting for him. But I think we probably could have taught him the game in one session if when we get wiped out, we didn't spend 3 hours trying to unite with one another.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And I honestly think that a lot of people have said, "Oh, this makes the game too easy." I don't know about you folks, but when I spawn in an area where multiple people are spawning, it becomes very difficult to find food and items because other people are picking them up. So I don't think they changed the loot economy to reflect this change. I think this was a you can have this on your server to be more friendly with your friends. However, I did make some suggestions of how they could improve this, which I hope modders do. Which one was a limit on how many people can spawn in a group spawn before it moves on to the next group spawn. So it chooses from a random bunch of group spawns. And instead of it being a time limit, how about it be only 10 people can spawn at this location before it goes to another group spawn? And then that way, you don't overpopulate one group spawn in the span of, like, let's say 30 minutes. Because when I was playing on experimental servers, I was finding people with fruit everywhere. I was a kid at a candy store. I'm like walking around with like 12 pairs. Um, because people just don't know how to play official DayZ sometimes, and that means that you get benefits. However, I do have to say I'm happy they kept the system in overall, and it is a choice for server owners to use or not use. So that's quite
Right.
nice.
I,
Um,
I will say there is one drawback that I don't think they thought of. A couple. I think there has to be a party system. Like you said, if you want to implement the only 10 people can spawn here at one time, have a party system so that if there's not enough people, like three of us die in a group, instead of spawning one of us in this and then having the change, have us all go to one area. But number two is a lot of people say it makes the game too easy. I don't know anybody out there who thinks that the biggest threat in DayZ are the heavy tier guys at tier 3 areas. Okay, you enter those areas at your own risk. To me, the biggest threat are the desperate Bambis who don't care because they'll just respawn. And having everybody for 30 minutes spawning in the same area will not only mean loot shortages, which I like because it'll force you inland, but also mean every other Bambi you see armed with a rock is just going to kill you and take your peach or your pear or your plum.
Nice, nice. Well, they also introduced a new weapon this update, the DMR, otherwise known as the Designated Marksman Rifle, or some know it as the M14. That is a very nice weapon, is it not, Yarl?
I love it. It was my go-to gun in the DayZ mod. And I got to play around with it a little bit. But what I really like about it is it's not just like here's the best weapon in the game. It's not as strong as some of the sniper rifles out there, but all around, I find the fact that you could use it as sniper, the fact that you could use it as a mid-range rifle, I think it's so well done. And the sounds of DayZ standalone, you use that gun at your own risk, especially in the city center, because that in the mod it was like, oh, DMR, no big deal, but in this one, it's oh, every zombie just heard you. Run for your life now.
Oh, that is awesome. You know what? You said all I could probably say about the TMR. It is a very nice rifle, and I'm happy to have it. There is various more mechanics to talk about in the DayZ 1.23 with plenty of bug fixes, which we always encourage people to look at. But there is one last change I want to actually quickly talk about because it has been the subject of many fun discussions with my friends, which is the ability to respawn upon unconsciousness. This is definitely been one of the most problematic things in servers where you're trying to take people alive, and when you uncon them, they just respawn and die immediately, which totally ruins all the effort you took to try to uncon them in the first place. Because let's face it, people, in DayZ, it's super easy to kill people and not care, right, Jarl?
It is really easy.
So this option of making it so people you can choose on your server whether or not people can choose to respawn when they're unconscious or not is a welcome change in my opinion for the roleplay servers and for servers who just want to encourage people to actually be able to think on their feet and not 100% take the easy way out when they get unconscious. But overall, I am loving this conversation, and I wish to pose a question to our community once again. What about the new Northwest Airfield are you happy about, and what are you sad to see gone in a new Northwest Airfield? Folks, this has been our take and our look at the DayZ 1.23 update, the new Northwest Airfield. Oh, see, they almost got me doing it there, calling it the new Vybor Air Base, huh? The new Northwest Airfield, the new Skybox, and plenty of other things. I hope you folks have all enjoyed this, and remember, this episode and everything else would not be possible without my friends Jarl of Goats, Red Falcon, and the overall production. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye bye.